Hello everyone, welcome to the House of Intention. Today we have Julie and she's going to talk about regulation. Julie is a somatic coach and yoga teacher based in Hout Bay, Cape Town, South Africa. So Julie.
Hi,
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your platform. I'm really happy to be here and I think it's a great intention that you are offering through this space. So very grateful. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about this idea of self-regulation.
Yeah.
It is a word I feel that's become kind of, I don't want to say mainstream, but mainstream.
Like a buzzword.
Like a buzzword. Yeah. And it's kind of all over social media, and what is self-regulation and how can it really serve us in our navigation of life, I guess. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Cool. So what is a nervous system and what is regulation?
Okay, great. Starting point.
Yes.
So we all have a nervous system. Our nervous system is the system embedded in our body that essentially receives and perceives all of the information that exists in the world around us. It's made up of our spinal cord and the nerves running out of our spinal cord and our skull brain. So that big, like, mushy thing up in your skull. Those make up the organs of the nervous system. So that's essentially what's working or at work when we're speaking about the system that's perceiving all of the energy around us. And this is very real energy. We have input coming in through our senses that are all connected to our nervous system all day, every day. And so it's like this modulation system between all of the information that's coming in from the outside and then also all the information that's happening internally, because our body is its own ecosystem. Yeah. So there's so much happening in the body constantly, and so we need this communication between the internal and the external, and so our nervous system really is the place where that communication happens. Where we perceive, and then how we receive that and perceive that determines our experience in any given moment.
Well, I can imagine a lot of people are always dysregulated. How does that show up? What does that look like? What's a type of regulation, dysregulation that we get? Yeah.
So when we speak about regulation and dysregulation, we are speaking to states of the nervous system. And I'm going to give a very kind of basic overview. This can get a lot more detailed and a lot more complex if you really go into the study of the nervous system. So just like an overarching idea so that it makes sense to anybody who's listening. Our nervous system, because it's always interacting with the environment, both internally and externally, it responds to whatever information it's receiving and perceiving in different ways. And its response really is always to try to serve us or help us. And so if we're perceiving something that we need to be afraid of, perhaps, or that is a danger to us, our nervous system is going to respond to that and then create an experience in us so that we can respond to that particular threat or fear or challenge. And so it's constantly going in and out of these states of I need to keep this organism alive. And so I'm going to feel something, respond to it, perceive it, and then in that response, there's some sort of action that takes place. And so some of the most common ways that the system can respond is either by mobilizing us to take action to move away from something that's maybe a threat to our livelihood or our well-being. And so we might mobilize energy and go into more of a fight response through the system. Or we could collapse, because that's another way that we might keep ourselves safe, is to collapse and pretend that we're immobilized and not able to move. And so these are very healthy responses And I think that's a little bit of a misconception,
Okay.
is that, this idea of dysregulation, which can be, there's something happening in the system and I need to respond to it in some way, that it's a negative thing, when actually we wouldn't survive as a human race if we didn't have these inbuilt systems that move us away from threat or kind of. So those are examples of dysregulation, and we're going to be, moving through that as people on a day in and day out basis, depending on how our nervous system is perceiving things. What can happen is that our nervous systems can become primed towards a habitual response in terms of this, like, I'm going to run away from this thing that's scary, or I'm going to kind of collapse and freeze. We can become primed towards those in response to maybe something that's not a threat to us, but we feel is a threat. And that's where we might, want to start getting curious and
Okay. So is there any examples of what fight could look like? Is that normally like emotions or body reactions?
Yeah, it's a great question. So all of this happens on a sensory level. And so there's emotion involved, and essentially the building blocks of our emotional experience are sensations, and that's the mobilization of energy in the body. And so kind of, if you think about emotion as like a label for an experience that we have, an emotion is made up of sensation, and we know this because when we cry, there's a whole flood of sensory stuff happening there. You might get like teary-eyed, and there's, you have tears, or if you're anxious or scared, your heart is beating, or if you're angry, there's like kind of a fire or a heat. And so those are the sensory building blocks of our emotions. And so in any of these responses to what we fear might be threatening to us, there'll be a sensory response or a mobilization of energy that moves us towards action. And so it's like, there's a perception of a threat. The body gets ready to respond. So it's like, there's some energy. And then that energy does need to express so that the system can go back into a regulated state. What can happen is the energy doesn't have a pathway to move. And so it can kind of sit in the system.
Can it get stuck?
It can get stuck. And I think of stuckness as like the impulse, the mobilization of the nervous system just hasn't had a chance to move that mobilized energy through in the way that it needs to in order to kind of find a place of rest. And so a fight response would look like there's like mobilization of energy moving. You can kind of think about it as moving upwards and outwards. So it's like any energy that's going to be like, I'm going to run away from the thing. So it's like it's pulling energy from your body to like get your muscles fired up. They're going to run, they're going to fight, they're going to defend, and so that's happening, on a body level. And then the converse to that, if we're kind of moving into a more collapsed state, that could look like this energy moving sort of down and in. It causes us to like immobilize, and we're still attempting to keep ourselves safe, but it's like, can I run away from the threat? No, actually, I don't have that option. So now that energy gets used to like shut things down.
You lie down.
You might lie down. You might lie down, or it's like a freeze response of, it can be a feeling of being like disconnected from reality, or like a numbing, like struggle to actually feel anything. So the system kind of shuts down. So those are ways that that can show up for us.
I can imagine that not one person is the same. So not one person's nervous system is the same. So how I react to maybe a fight response, someone might react to a fawn response.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, totally. So everyone is perceiving the world through their unique lens.
Yeah.
And because our nervous system is how it is the perceiver of information, that perception is very unique based on what you've experienced in your life and what I've experienced in my life. It kind of creates the blueprint for me going, okay, this is what this means. This is what this means, because this was my experience of this thing.
Yeah.
And then the nervous system goes, check, 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 check. Like, this thing is threatening to you. This isn't, because of how you experienced it. And it's not as simple as that, because there's many factors, obviously, that are involved in how we're shaped, what we experience, and also our unique temperament and the environments that we live in and all of these things. But yes, we're all super unique.
Yeah.
And so we're all responding to things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there ways to relearn my nervous system? Can I do that?
Yes.
Is that an option?
Is that an option? Yes. Well, this is where we come to the self-regulation stuff, which is, well, I guess the one bit of learning the nervous system, for me, that really starts with awareness, building our awareness tools of our body. And that's a big focus of my practice as a somatic coach, is actually assisting people to start to become aware of this thing
that they live in.
And like, what am I feeling? And like, what's that? What are those building blocks of my emotions? Like, starting to build that relationship. So that's the first part of any nervous system work, is we actually have to start to just build a relationship of awareness with the body. And then this idea of regulation, which can get misconstrued as becoming calm. What regulation is, and tools we can use to regulate, are actually tools that help us move energy through that didn't get a chance to complete. So it's a little bit different. So it's like, I'm feeling something, my body's going into a fight response. And so regulation, using certain tools, and we're going to talk about some of those tools, helps me be with the energy. And when I can be with the energy, it has a way to move through so that that action can complete.
Release.
So I can metabolize the energy and then I come back to a state of rest. So that's the process, as opposed to a regulation tool being something that gets rid of the feeling. So it's like, oh, I'm feeling something, and now I'm going to do this tool, I'm going to use this tool, and now I'm going to get rid of it. It's actually, I'm going to meet it so that it can go through the cycle of energy it needs to go through, and it can complete. And that's what we're going for with regulation. So it's less about, I'm trying to get rid of, and more, how can I build some capacity to let this energy actually move through my body in the way that it needs to, so that I can reset that healthy response to challenge in my nervous system.
Wow. Kind of like being with the energy, not blocking the energy, allow it to move through you. And these tools really help us to let that energy move through, because that energy is speaking to us in some way. It's dysregulation is going, I'm perceiving something here. That my body's saying, like, oh, you're perceiving something you need to run away from, or that you need to collapse into. So if I can regulate myself as and be with the energy, use these tools, then I give that energy an opportunity to speak to me, to express, and then we move back into a state of rest. How do we do that?
How do we do that?
Are there ways?
There are many ways. There are many ways to create space for us to regulate, so that we can let energy move. Some ways to, or two ways, I guess, to like categorize regulation tools. We can do time in regulation, which is things that we do like in our daily lives that are going to set us up to have some space for energy to move.
To flow, yeah.
Yeah. And so those are things that like we commit to, like committed practices, things like taking a walk in nature, doing art, listening to music, journaling, meditation. And as you said, everyone is so unique. So that's like not an exhaustive list. It's really anything that helps you connect with yourself.
Kind of like people that surf,
Totally.
for that, people that run.
100%.
Could be something active as well.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, this thing that really like gives me a lot of space. Yeah, surfing's that. Yes, exactly. I've spoken to lots of surfers who are like in an ocean, and it's like suddenly they have so much space.
With the waves.
Just with the waves, get into the water. So those are ways that we can. It's like we go to the gym to build muscle for strength. Like we commit to that practice.
Yeah.
These are these things that we can do so that our nervous system has enough space to like be with energy when it mobilizes and it comes through. So that's the one thing, and then we get some other tools which we can call on-the-spot regulation. What that is like in a moment where, I've done some work where I've built an awareness about my body's sensations, and so now, because a lot of the time we don't even have the awearness, so my body's going into a response, and there's no kind of awareness. We're just reacting. We're just doing that. And so there's a level of awareness perhaps we've built going, okay, I recognize some of the signals that are telling me this is what's going on. So in that, we can use on-the-spot regulation tools to help us be with the energy so that it can move through and we can come back to a place of rest. And so these are the on-the-spot, and I'm just going to share
please.
like 3 of them. So the first one is body contact. And so we can do that. And so that's anytime you bring your hands onto your body. So you can like bring your hands onto your legs and just rub your hands on your legs. And if you guys want to try this out at home, you can.
I've done this a lot, like in a meeting. It just helps. And a lot of these things we actually do quite naturally. Which is like super interesting that we are, you might naturally find yourself. This is also a good one.
Rubbing the hands together, rubbing your hands on your legs. They're inbuilt. It's like there's energy moving. Okay, I'm going to assist that energy to move. So we kind of do these things. So body contact is one of the ways. So that can be hands on body, rubbing your body, being aware of your weight is also a way that I think of body contact. It's like, okay, where are my hips? What are my hips connected to? What are my feet connected to?
What am I sitting on?
What am I sitting on? Building that. So a connection to our weight.
Cool. That also like maybe texture, because then you can start going into, what does the floor feel like on my feet?
Yes. All these sensory input. What's the floor? What's the like texture of the floor? What does that feel like? What do my clothes feel like on my body? So that's also body contact. Right?
You can also imagine then like also the awareness of, I'm leaning more into the right side and into the left, then you come into the like balancing part of things.
Totally. And you start to notice tension, and you start to notice like where there's a holding, and all of those things are like building our pathways of awareness and helping us create that space to be with the energy that's coming up so that we can work with it and give it some space. So body contact, or like sensing your body in space, the weight of your body. Where am I in space? Another one, and this can be a on the spot or time in regulation, is humming. And so you can do this as like a daily practice, which is great because
I love to hum.
So it's something you can do as a daily practice. And I'm not going to go too into it, but it's something that supports vagal tone, which is part of the nervous system that is very connected to these different states that we move in and out of. But essentially what happens when we hum is we create some vibration in our throat, chest, body. So the act of that vibration helps to stimulate the vagus nerve. And humming also helps us move energy through the voice. And the voice is what we call a somatic opening.
Yeah.
It's a place where that energy can vocalize and be expressed through the voice. And so when we hum, we're actually helping energy move.
Yeah. I can imagine like a lot of people's throat chakras are constantly blocked.
Sure.
And it's one of the biggest problems we have because we never want to speak up or we're just holding back. So just by humming also allows for that even to stimulate.
Yeah, it stimulates. I was speaking about this yesterday with a client, the voice, and in the voice work that I do. Our voice is so vulnerable. It's like one of the most vulnerable parts of ourselves. And like you said, it can be really hard to speak up.
Express
Because through the voice we're revealing ourselves to the world. And it's like, whoa,
yes.
like, okay, we're putting ourselves on display here with like what's, coming out. And so the voice can be a really scary place. And so there is this getting comfortable in using our voice and the energy that might feel threatening. That signals to us like, this is not safe to say the thing. And how we can work with that energy as well. So the humming is really great.
Can you hum a little for us?
Yes.
What does it sound like? How do we hum?
What's the technique?
Yes.
And this is a good point because, it's like, how do I hum? It's not about sounding good. So I think that's the first thing, is that this is a practice of like feeling your body rather than I've got to hum and sound good. So that's the first one. It doesn't need to be loud. I think some people think like, oh, I've got to hum and I've got to like strain my voice. Anytime we're doing a humming practice or a breath work practice, we actually don't want to put strain on the body. We want to be in a relaxed space. So you can hum lying down if you want or seated. And when we hum or use the voice, something to consider is that our voice is connected to our whole body. And so it's not just here, it's actually the whole body is supporting the voice because the voice is supported by the breath. And so when we breathe, we want to breathe with our whole body basically because you're filling up space. That's going to support the hum. So we'll do a little practice now with some breath. But that's something to think about. So your body being comfortable and easy, doesn't need to be loud. You want to think about like softening the throat as much as possible. So the hum is gentle rather than forcing and letting your breath come from your belly and letting that belly breath bring the air out into the hum. Which again, if you're used to breathing more up in the chest, that might feel like foreign to breathe from the belly. So if that's you and it's like, oh, I'm breathing up here, that's fine. When you hum, just imagine, so you can use the visualization of your breath coming kind of from your belly or your lower spine, even if your belly isn't actually moving. So you can use that as a bit of a cue, like, okay, my breath is going to come up.
I think also eventually you'll build that connection to be able to breathe from.
Exactly. So over time, as you do it, it can kind of help you open that up. So humming from the whole body, relaxed, easy, from the belly, letting it rise up. And then the way we do this is you can keep your tongue sort of soft in your mouth. Lips are going to come together gently so that when the vibration comes through, it's like we're buzzing through the lips. So not lips like super, it's like soft lips, soft jaw, soft tongue in the mouth, soft throat, because it's going to vibrate naturally through your vocal cords when you exhale the breath out. And then just finding a pitch or a note that feels comfortable, and it doesn't matter what it sounds like.
Yes. Are we going to try it?
Yeah, we're going to try it. Okay, so get nice and comfortable. Okay, and let's just do a little like grounding. So we'll rub the hands together, and you can connect with your weight, so you can feel the weight of your hips going down. Okay, and then comfortable place to bring your hands down onto your body, and then your eyes can close or you can keep them open and focused. And maybe if your energy is feeling a little like down and in, you keep your eyes open because that'll help you stay alert. And if your energy is feeling like it's moving up and out, maybe you close the eyes down and meet yourself there. Okay, and for now, before we start to hum, just bring a bit of breath awareness to your awareness. So feeling the in-breath and the out-breath. And it's okay if your breath is coming from your chest, or if it's shorter or longer. It's okay, whatever your breath is right now. And then you can start to imagine your breath going down to the belly on your inhale and then rising up from the belly or from the tip of your tailbone on the exhale breath. And so if that's just a visualization for now, that's totally enough. If it feels like you're forcing your breath to send it into the belly, rather not force it and just let it go where it goes. And you can keep visualizing, breathing down to the belly and then breathing up and out from the belly as well. Okay, so then we're going to start with our hum. So remember, lips are gently sealed, tongue's relaxed, jaw a little relaxed, and just imagine your throat relaxing a little bit as well. Okay. Let's breathe in for our hum. Let's go one more. And then you can let your breath just return back to a natural rhythm. And if you notice there's an urge to make a sighing sound or to let out a little bit of air, you can definitely follow that. It's another way the nervous system recalibrates itself. Maybe you have a little bit more awareness of like a tingle or some sensation around your body or in your body. Maybe not, that's also fine. Okay, and you can just gently open your eyes, move around. Yeah.
Sure. I feel so good. I felt like my whole body's vibrating, which was so nice.
So nice.
Yeah. Is there like a recommended amount of time you have to hum, or is like 2 enough, or?
So some things I've been told is like 15 hums really like gets us going.
Okay.
However, what we did there was probably like 7.
Yeah.
I still felt a difference.
Yes.
So for me, it's like if you can hum 3 times in a moment of challenge, you know, where you're feeling like, oh, I need to connect with this energy and have a place to go.
Yeah.
Even that will still have a benefit on the nervous system for sure. It can be a little challenging, like you're at work or you're at the office and like, you know,
Yes.
I'm going to go hum for 2 minutes. Maybe you just like kind of move yourself out of that space and do a few hums.
I mean, most offices do have prayer rooms now and have like little spaces where people can go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There we go. So it's like, oh, there's some energy moving. I'm feeling a little shut down or maybe a little like elevated.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be with this energy, go to the room, hum 15 times.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It's great.
Yeah,
it's really
I love
great.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome.
And then just a little bit about your somatic practice.
Yes.
Yeah, so you mentioned it before and you just gave a little bit of insight.
Yes.
But what is it really, and you know, what type of person would be seeking you?
Yes.
You know?
Cool. So somatic coaching is a style of coaching that really focuses on everything we've been speaking about, which is how our bodies are such an important piece in how we experience our lives, and that generally people are seeking coaching when they, you know, maybe feel a little bit stuck. But I kind of view stuckness as these moments in life where like we're getting ready to change or shift. And so the stuckness actually is something to be celebrated, because it's like, now I'm aware that I'm at the edge and I need to, like, things need to move.
You know, it needs to change.
Change. And so generally people will seek a coach around those times. Like maybe they're feeling stuck, or they're feeling frustrated, or there's something that they really are desiring in their life and they're not sure how to move towards it. And so those are the type of people that would approach for coaching. And then the somatic perspective or style, I find is very resonant for people who perhaps have some sort of awareness of how powerful it can be to use the body in the change process. And so that's what we're focusing on in the coaching container. So it's like, you're feeling like you need some coaching around some stuff. Maybe it's relationship, maybe it's work, maybe it's self. There might be a sense of like stuckness, or like I'm ready to shift, or there's something that's changing and I need some support with that. And then what we do is we build the capacity to understand what's happening in the body, so that we can start to really learn what it is we want from the inside out. And then we can use body-based practices like these regulation practices, as well as other somatic practices, to help us in embodying, literally through the nervous system, whatever that change is that the person is seeking. So that the change is not conceptual and an idea, but it actually imprints in the nervous system, so that I have the capacity to show up in the world in my body the way that I'm desiring to. And so that's really the focus of the practice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So Julie's link is going to be in the workbook, but also on the website. And I just want to thank you so much. It was amazing.
Awesome.
For having you here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. Ciao.